Hey everyone, Jessica Morrison, Realtor here with Ferris Property Group based out of Indianapolis. We are back for another top agent interview series. This time we have Albie Vas. Albie, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
You bet. So, sir, I can see from your background that you are in Las Vegas. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Oh my goodness. So, tell us about yourself and we'll eventually get to the Las Vegas market, but how did you land in real estate?
Oh, that's really funny. So it has to go all the way back to college. So I graduated with two full degrees, one in marketing and one in MIS. So that's computers and marketing. So I was in IT. I was a Microsoft engineer for 14 years, and then one bad email, I said, you know what? I'm tired of working for somebody. And then I started looking. And at the time, the biggest market was really taking off 2007. I said, hey, maybe we should do something like that. A couple of our friends are doing really well and they're not that bright. Don't want to say they weren't, but they weren't that bright and they were doing well. So we figured, I'm like, hey, maybe we should do this. So me and my wife actually jumped in to start doing real estate. And I started in 2008. And that was the greatest time to get in because the whole market was tanking. So that is my story. But I wouldn't change anything because I got my teeth kicked in early on versus getting in like last year or the year before for certain people where it's all easy money. I'm going to get in all easy money. Back then it was rough. I could go on for 30 minutes on how rough it was, but keep it like that. So yes, I've been
Yeah.
an agent since 2008.
Okay. So that, I mean, I got in 2014, and it's amazing to think about this market versus markets in years past, where I cannot fathom 2008 for a variety of reasons as an agent. But just thinking about how things used to be, oh, we saw the house and we waited 3 days to make an offer, and just how much has shifted since then. But what do you think in your career has been the biggest learning curve or uh, wisdom that you come back to time and time again because you started in 2008?
Okay. So one of the biggest things, and I learned a lesson really roughly on it because it was really bad. So one of the biggest things is just having a CRM follow up. Because so when I first started, I'm like, all right, hey, how am I going to get people? Oh, I'll do open houses because I had a great personality. I was like, if I get face to face, they'll buy, right? So that was easy money back then. Was hey, do that. And then since my IT background, I started doing Craigslist before anyone else even knew what it was. So we had all these leads were coming in. So roughly around 600 free leads a month, but we never followed up with any of them. We had no systems in place and we ran it. We ran it all the way to 2012, 13 when they changed Craigslist. And I suffered. I didn't do anything because I didn't know how to follow up with people. Because if you weren't ready to buy today, and back then, 09, 10, and 11, if you didn't have cash, I really wasn't working with you. So that was my biggest downfall. So now as a CRM, it's just make it a lot easier now to follow up to people because I'm still doing internet leads as well. So back then I also was doing SEO, so search engine optimization. Google has changed some things around, so it's a little rougher now, especially when you have like Zillow and Trulia and Redfin, and they're all on there now. So, but we're in a hyper local market, so that's where we operate on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's unfortunate sometimes how you have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, with the whole follow-up thing, I'm all about automation. So I have a lot of automated responses in place just to make sure that I'm responding with the right person at the right time. So I'm not wasting any time.
Well, and then on the consumer side, you are able to make sure that you are not only present when they're available, but able to answer their questions in a timely manner, because real estate, buying and selling real estate is one of the most stressful experiences we'll experience. So being able to provide that level of customer service is, I'm sure your clients really appreciate. Have you seen any resistance or had anybody vocalize that they don't like the automated responses when?
So it's really funny. I would say it's probably about maybe one or two out of 100 that actually know it's an automated service that comes through. So I'll walk you quickly through how it works. So if you come in through an internet lead through our website, it'll go into a queue, and then within 2 to 3 minutes, somebody will actually dial you. And all they're asking is, are you working with an agent? What are you looking for? And those are the only things. Number one, if they're working with an agent, they're like, oh, that's great. Then we know that you're not somebody we're not going to follow up with. And then, so once that happens, it gets transferred to me and say, hey, this is a real person. You should give them a call now. So I call them, hey, my colleague just spoke to you, heard you're looking for this, this, and this. I was like, what's your timeline? And that route too. But if there's no response, because, people just, oh, yeah, I don't know this number and I just hit the button, so they're not going to do anything. So then a text message response along with an email will ask them, hey, what are you looking for? Thank you for coming to my website. And then they'll respond back like, hey, this is a real person. But every once in a while they respond back. I'm like, is this an automated system? I'm like, actually, it kind of is, but I'm real. So the response has been really good. So they're just like that. Somebody's interacting with them. They won't respond a couple of times. So it'll be 4, 5, 10 different times before they even respond. And it could be 2, 3, 4 months later on the later drips that we'll be able to get them there.
Sure. I think for the consumers watching this, it's really important, I think, to recognize that you as a consumer are probably going to be on the internet looking at houses on average 10 months before you will ever contact an agent. And so agents like Albie, who really utilize tech and internet to earn those relationships and opportunities, have to follow up with you enough because there's so many different people competing for your business. And so by following up, they're not trying to pester you on one hand. They want to stay in touch to know that you are valuable to them and want to earn that opportunity to have that relationship. So would you say, Albie, like what percentage of your business is internet based versus working by referral or through your sphere?
So it is a low amount just because just the pure nature of all that competitiveness that's on the internet today. So it'll probably be around 10% or less. So a majority of my my business comes from agent to agent referrals. So I built on that from early on in 2011 and 12. It has been phenomenal. I try to get away from it in 2016, 17. I'm like, you know what? I don't need these agent to agent referrals because somebody new will come on and take it all. Because early on, Vegas, it was just me. There was nobody else. So it was easy money. I'm all about the easy money part. And then once the competitiveness came in, it stepped up my game a lot. So I got a lot of systems in place on that as well. I would love to share those too, but I can't.
That's okay. No, agent to agent referrals are incredibly valuable. I think more and more in my career, I'm realizing the power of that referral network because for those watching, when you get into real estate and you send a referral, it costs nothing to you as a consumer, but the referring agent makes, and the commission can be relative to the conversation, but on average it's about 25%, and that comes off of that agent's the new agent's commission when they close or represent you as a client. So it's a great way for, if you're looking to get into real estate, to make what we would call passive income. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, Albie, but it's another revenue source to grow your business. So if you're able to help more people and then also tap into the network and more importantly, build relationships with other agents. I don't know. It's never a bad thing to know people.
No, absolutely. So it's kind of like, so I live in Las Vegas. I'm like, oh, I could help you in Vegas. I help you in Vegas. I'm like, oh, but I'm buying in LA. So it kind of feels like if you're stuck where people think, oh, you can only help them out in Vegas, and then you're missing out on the rest of the United States and also rest of the world with Keller Williams. So it's a really funny thing is my niece is closing in 2 weeks, and it's an agent I knew for the last 6 years. It's like, as soon as she told me where she was looking, I said, hey, I can contact this guy and see if he'll do it. And he works in that luxury and ultra luxury market. I said, look, she's only in that 600 range. Can you help her? And he's like, you know what? If she's related to you, I can help you. I'm like, all right, sounds good. And she's a little much. Yeah, I'm a little much, but she's a little much.
We won't tell her that.
No. She knows she's a little much.
But that's a good example. So we are able to clarify this for those watching. We are able to help you get connected to an agent in your area, no matter where you're located. So if you're moving from Michigan to Florida, all I have to do is pick up a phone call and you can get representation that, we verified as a good and professional person. Rather than, I think sometimes word of mouth can be very good, but you don't always know if you're getting the best of the best. So, and that's why we're hosting this series, is to help you softly interview people like Albie if you're looking at Vegas specifically.
Yeah, and let me add on to that really quickly. And so my niece had been looking online and she saw that, hey, this place is doing an open house. She goes, if I like it, I'll just use that agent. I said, no, I don't know anything about that agent. And let me give you somebody that I know has been vetted that you actually know. Because even though you think you may be getting a good deal with that agent, it could cost you more on the long run. So with that said, she went down there with my sister, and my niece is a construction engineer. And when the agent told her something, she's like, that's not right. That you're lying to me already. And I'm like, and then she called me back. She goes, you're right. I will use your guy. I'm like, yeah, because that lady lied to you. And I don't know who she is.
And a lot of agents, I'm not knocking open houses because they were foundational in the first 5 years of my career.
Yeah, that's how
Five,
I
six.
started too.
Like,
I did my own neighborhood
yep. Like,
every weekend.
open houses are an incredible way to grow your business as a realtor. But um, the problem with open houses is that you don't know the type of agent that's hosting it. So it could have been somebody that got their license yesterday.
Yeah, or that
Um,
day.
yeah, like you just don't know. So if you're expecting to go in, and on one hand, it's nice to build that in-person relationship with the individual. Um, it's still like there still needs to be a vetting process. So Albie, when this is a good question to segue, um, what would you suggest for buyers and sellers to ask questions wise or look for when evaluating an agent to partner with in your local market?
That's a very good question. So everyone's going to have something different on that. So on the buy side, it's a whole different spectrum, and then all versus the sell side. Also, you got to take a look at got to take a look at the market. So let's say today I am brand new and I'm going to be buying a house. So one of the questions you should be asking is, where do you typically work? It's like, do you work on the west side, the Summerlin area where I live? Is that your focal point? Do you work on the east side in the Henderson area? Is that your focal point? Because I'm assuming if you're concentrated in that area, you would know more things about it. So there are certain parts on the east side of Las Vegas that I don't really know. I don't really venture over there. It's just that's not my area. So I would start out with that. And then number two is, if I want to live in the Summerlin area where I live, how many sales have you had in that area? Do you, like I said, again, do you concentrate in that area? And then on the flip side too is this, I'll bring up another point on that part too is, so on the flip point, if I'm on the sales side, number one question is, how are you going to market my property? And most people are going to say, hey, as an agent, I'm going to take a discounted rate and I'm going to use my cell phone. I'm going to post it on my social media with 10 people on it. So that is everyone's standard answer, right? So my number one thing is, all right, how much I would ask, how much is your photographer? And if they say, oh, I don't use one, then I'm like, you're out the door. Because they're not using a professional photographer. I don't care how bad that photographer is. At least it's somebody else not using a cell phone. If it's a larger house, and I'm like, how much is your videographer? And if they're like, oh, I use my cell phone, I'm like, yeah, then you're out the door too. So those are kind of the entry level. You can just do a whole hour of just that too, but those should be your first two questions. Yeah, because I could go into more, but there should be two. Because if your agent isn't using a professional photographer, it's a waste of time.
I literally can't. Like,
Are you on this video? Are you able to edit some stuff and add some pictures on later?
I can do a screen share.
Oh
I'm
no, I'll have to send it to you because I took a picture with my photographer taking pictures of my own personal properties, and
mhm.
it's night and day.
Oh,
So
okay.
I would love for you to just maybe cut in the middle of this and then show the night and day, because it is really bad.
I will do my best to make that happen,
But
Albie.
you don't have to. You don't have to.
No, I have such a shared soapbox on that subject.
Oh, don't tell me you used your cell phone.
No, 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 no. I'm in agreement with you.
Okay, because I'm like,
I
if I offended you, I'm not even
No,
think
no,
about
no,
it.
no, no. Very much in the same vein. I use the same photographers for all of my listings. Doesn't matter what the price point is, and some of those features, like you'll get more obviously in your marketing when it's a more expensive house because it requires a lot more
Correct.
marketing to sell that type of property because there's fewer people that are able to purchase. So But yes, my thought on the subject is that this is likely to be someone's single largest investment, and they are partnering with you to represent that in the best light possible. And they're also paying you a pretty penny. I don't discount my commission for a variety of reasons, but I think that the first and foremost thing in all of that is that you want to represent them well, and you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to try to leave it there. But yes, to everything that you're saying, I'll be 100%. The other thing that I would add in this day and age, and I know that you would probably be in agreement with this, is virtual tours. For sellers that are watching this, a virtual tour is not an automated photo gallery. NAR actually released an article that says 94% of listings today do not have a virtual tour or part of that. And Albie, would you say that relocation is a big part of your local market?
Yeah, absolutely. It is a
So,
big part of my, it's rare that I work, is another thing. It's rare that I work with somebody that actually lives here, only because there's 17,000 agents and there's 2 million people. So it's like one for every 124. And there's always another agent that'll do it for free and cost you money on the long end. So it's really tough because everyone knows 4 or 5 agents here.
yeah, and the thought that I have with bringing up relocation is you cannot, I mean, you can try with the photography and even video to get a feel for the layout, but more and more people are relying on virtual tours because of COVID. As we all saw that spike in 2020, people don't feel safe walking through other people's houses in a pandemic, and rightfully so. And even just personally having bought a house, like it's incredibly helpful to be like, well, does this room have crown molding, or is there a closet here? Like being able to reference a tour, um, even though I was local, has been incredibly helpful. So imagine the service that you're able to get as a seller by being able to attract more people and therefore incite hopefully multiple offers, because people are more confident in what they see. Am I saying that correctly, Albie?
Yeah, you are. And then that brings us into a great segue of the local market and multiple offers. So yeah, if you
Yes.
want to jump into that, because I got a whole
Yes, let's do it.
list. All
What's the
right.
state of Las Vegas?
It is, I don't know how to explain it. It is, so I could tell you what, because I always tell everyone, how's the market? I could tell you this. The one thing that comes out of my mouth is I'm not winning. So when I say I'm not winning, that means I'm not winning. We're submitting offers and we're not winning. And we're 10, 15, 20 grand above the list price. We're just not winning. So there's a lot of things associated with it, the whole COVID shortage of inventory. So here's the really funny part is our inventory has grown from 1,800 to 2,600 in the last, about the last month, right? So I'm like, oh, that has grown, easy money, right? Because it's a little bit more people. No. So what we're dealing with is we're dealing with all the millennials that are now buying, they thought of a great idea of, hey, let me just rent and never buy. And now they're buying. So I believe they said it was 15 million millennials now thinking about buying. So that's one thing. Number two is we're dealing with other people aren't dealing with, and that's institutional buyers. And when I say institutional buyers, I'm talking about there are pension funds, hedge funds, Zillow. They're all buying houses that are on the market. And here's the thing: it's like, oh yeah, so the house is 300,000. They're offering 280 so they could resell it. No, they're offering 320, 325. They're offering anywhere from 5 to 10% over list price. And what they're thinking is like Blackstone used to be one of our biggest hedge fund here that bought 20,000 houses during the crash. So what they just put out is said, hey, we have a good feeling that shortage of inventory is going to continue into 2023. So with that said is, hey, if they buy a house, let's say they put, $1 billion today and it grows 15%, I'm like, that's a lot of money for them. So, and all they're going to do is during that time is they'll buy it and they'll rent it out and then they'll go through that. And it's happening nationwide. I know Lennar is doing that in Texas, where they built a whole community just for renters that they sold to a hedge fund. I believe it was Blackstone at that time.
We had that happen to a neighborhood on the south side of Indianapolis. Have you seen any local government try to get involved with that? I don't generally like it when the government tries to get involved in the free
No,
market, but do you think that that's a conversation that's coming?
no, but I did see that I believe it was one of the congressmen was talking about affordable housing, to try to get that passed through, something like that. So I just heard a glimpse of it. I didn't get the full details of it. But here's another thing too, is, everybody's talking about affordable housing too, is you don't have to live in the most expensive neighborhood. You just don't, because everybody's like, oh, Vegas is priced out. So our median price right now is 400,000. It used to be 300,000 about a year and some change ago. Right when the pandemic started, we were at 310, 320. So it had grown that much. So people like, oh, there's no affordable housing. All these people from California are coming in, which is true. That's the people that bought my house. But you can move to a different area and still get those $300,000 house, but it's going to be a battle to get in there. But yeah, that's what I say. And, in the house that I just bought, I could have got it cheaper somewhere else. But my wife says she wants to live there, and I love living there too. So that is my concentration in the Summerlin area.
Yeah, I think when you're going through real estate school, there's price, location, and condition. And,
that is correct. In today's market, it's a little bit of price. Nobody cares about the condition ish. Location is just what people want, if they want to be in that area or not. But everything is just really flying off the market, and it's pretty crazy. It's pretty rough. So we did have a small dip, which was in May, which I accelerated. I got 8 in the contract in May. So I was like, yeah. Then June came around, and then I only got 2. And then July, I only got 2. So it's rough.
Well, and I think to give some empathy or help our consumers have empathy for what you're going through, Albie, so much of your success in winning is dependent on your client's comfort level with risk.
Correct.
So you could advise them on what it will take to win.
Correct.
But they might not follow through. And it might honestly be that client has to learn 4 or 5 times the hard way of not getting an offer accepted before they learn to listen. And that's not because we want you to overspend or anything like that. It's just that when I sit down with the client, I will say, here's what's sold. And while I can't see if there was any appraisal gap language, unless it's provided in agent remarks, here's where I've had success in getting offers accepted. And what I'm seeing now, the thing that I'm curious about in Vegas, Albie, is with that increase in inventory, and you said there's still not been a slowdown. Have you seen or had any listings where, as a listing agent, people have expected, like, assigning buyer psychology of fear of a bidding war and therefore not bidding when there might only be 1 or 2 offers on the table?
So you're talking about on the buy side, correct?
A
You're
little
talking
bit
about on the
like, so for example, as a listing agent, I experienced where we had a flood of traffic. And then I had people saying, oh, like, it's priced too high, or whatever. And then agents would call me and vet their clients and say, yeah, we keep losing. Or we don't want to bid because we're afraid we're not going to get it, knowing that there was a ton of activity on it. And I did have offers in hand, but I said, I do think that there's a chance somebody could make a better offer. So,
yeah, absolutely.
like, people were striking out before even playing the game. And I'm wondering if you feel that in your market.
Yeah. So not with my buyers. We don't tell our buyers that. We tell our buyers, I'm like, look, it's going to be competitive no matter what. Then we show them the stats. So the stats are: list price was 390. The medium price of sold was 400. So people have been going 10,000 over list price. And that's across the whole board. That was over 3,600 homes sold. That's what's going to take to win at a minimum to get in there. So we just educate them, and it does take a couple of times to get beat up before you figure out, hey, I should probably do something. And that makes me to a quick point here is early March, I got one of my good friends into a house because I knew the listing agent. And this, when things started really accelerating, I said, hey, what do you need? And he goes, actually, my client just needs this. I'm like, cool, we'll give it to you as is. Boom. There was $800 worth of damage in the repairs. And she's like, well, I think I'll walk away. And I said, no, this is a great house. You're not going to win. I'll even donate the money to you because you're my best friend. And she's like, well, I'm not in love with that. I'm like, really? It's the best house I've seen in the last month. So basically we walked away, and it is what, July? We still haven't got a house.
Oh, Albie, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But it's, sometimes I think it's hard for people.
And it was the first house she sent me.
Yeah.
And it was the first house we got into contract because I knew the agent, and we have not. So we probably offered maybe 35 since then. And
Mhm.
it's just now it just wasn't every day. Now it's like once every other week she'll contact me, It's so I determined that that'll probably not be a sale later down the road because the prices have already gone up 30, 40, 50 grand by then.
Yep. Yep. And that's actually something for those watching. I was able to save a good handful of clients this summer, tens of thousands of dollars by not having to compete on the open market, by leveraging my network as an agent, where I knew an agent had a seller and we did a private showing with the buyers and essentially married the clients together. And because the clients did not have to get into a bidding war, each of them saved at least 20 to 30 grand because they didn't have to bid and all of that. And so sometimes like you can find sellers in this market who are looking more so from a convenience aspect, and they'll assign monetary value to that. So hopefully, Albie, you can find that again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and I explained that to people. So if you are paying above list price, don't think you're actually overpaying. Where you're actually doing is you're paying what today's market value, maybe tomorrow's market value is. So let me explain this. So in July, my client just reached back out to me. We closed on the house and we were over 20 grand. We went over 20 grand because it's a beautiful view of the strip. He is now 110,000 over since July is what his value is. Because he did tell me, he goes, I think we overpaid, because he was a marketing guy, because we could have got it better. I'm like, no, we beat 20 offers. This is what it took to win. And that our appraisal gap was we put 20,000. So we said, hey, you know what? No appraisal. And we won. And now he's up 100. So it's just, you got to take that
Wow.
chance. Did he overpay? No, he picked right whatever that market was today, knowing that the market's going to continue, and that's where it is. So if you're thinking if you're going to overpay, you're probably not overpaying. You're actually getting tomorrow's prices today, and then the people later down the road will pay more. And that's a great segue to my neighborhood. Is I just closed on my house, for X amount of dollars, and somebody else just listed slightly above it because they're like, that's an incredible number. So the people that bought my house, somebody's going to pay a little bit more in about 15 to 20 days. So then they're going to be in the money as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Albie, because if you are on the fence right now as a buyer watching this, here's something to think about. As homes continue to sell, they're going to appreciate, and that's going to justify higher list prices, just like what Albie illustrated. So not only are you getting your buying power reduced, but the inventory is being erased essentially from, like, if you're approved for 250 and things keep selling for over 220, 230, slowly but surely that 250 price is going to disappear. So not only do you need to act now, but also think about interest rates. So there's been some creeping of interest rates. And as those interest rates increase, your buying power goes down. So when you combine those two together, I'm not trying to create hysteria or make you anxious as a viewer, but just laying out the data that says the cheapest time to buy is right now. And we do expect to see prices continue to appreciate over the next few years. It won't be as aggressive as it's been today and in recent years, depending on some markets, but they're still going to go up. Would you agree, Albie?
Oh, absolutely. And that's the main reason why we took a look at our house. If you talked to me a month ago, we weren't ready to sell because we weren't going to sell. Our house is great. But one of the biggest factor was the interest rates are going to move. And right now is a great time to sell and buy something else. So I just didn't want to be 65, 60 buying a large house when I'm trying to retire. So we figured we did it now. And we took a look at everything, what we could sell for and the interest rates to be able to buy in now. And that's why we're actually putting 36% down so we can have a cheaper payment. And when we get to retirement age, hopefully it'll be down enough where we can actually just pay it off. So that is our plan. And this could be our forever home. We just want to make sure we grab that interest rate today.
Do you think that that's the case for most of your high net worth clients who might be selling, is because they're trying to lock into that next house and secure that lower interest rate?
No, actually, I'm thinking about going through all of them. I don't think anyone of us was even thinking about the interest rate. No, I don't think any of them were. Well, we do a lot of cash on the high end stuff.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's like, it was really funny is right when COVID started, the market had dipped, in that March timeframe. And I had a client that was looking at something in the $1 million range. And he's like, I don't know, I'm just not going to buy anything because, just the market's crashing. Just from the stock market going up, he used all the extra money he had and he actually paid cash for his house. And then when I showed his wife the house, she actually cried when she walked through the front door. She goes, "This will be my forever home. I'm so happy."
I'm glad when you said cried, it was a happy cry versus
Yeah, yeah.
the
No, it was like,
opposite.
this is everything I've ever wanted.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, yeah. And for our new home, because of the price we sold at, because we're building it, there were some things I cut back on because it does cost money. But I got things in there that I didn't think I was going to get because when I sold my house, I got so much extra money that I'm able to put those things in there. So I'm beyond ecstatic on what we did with our new house.
Yep. I am so tickled for clients that bought around April, May of last
Yep.
year, March, April, May of last year, because there was a lot of uncertainty in the market. And so we
Absolutely.
were able to negotiate below a builder's spec house price
Oh,
and
wow.
got a good deal on that for them. And I'm just like, you guys have no idea how good you got it. Like,
Exactly. My neighbor, he probably got the best deal of the year is so with COVID in our neighborhood, one of the ladies like, I paid cash for my house. I just want the same amount back because I don't want to lose anything, right? April of last year. So the next door neighbor, he's a financial guy. He told the other financial guy, he goes, "Hey, this lady's gonna sell this house at a discount. Come buy it." And sure enough, he came and bought it. He bought like, it's like 50, 60 grand under market. Just because she just wanted to make sure she got all of her money back because she didn't know where that economy and market was going. And I ain't gonna lie, I did too. I actually thought the whole economy was really going to crash. The market, the real estate market was going to crash. I even thought about selling back then because it didn't make sense. Nobody's working, people are getting sick. Nobody's going to be buying houses. And who knew in June that things would flip around and be the craziest thing I've ever seen.
it's wild. And that's why we say in real estate, we don't have a crystal ball. This is
No.
with the information we have in front of us, the best guess that we can make. But ultimately, no one could have planned for a pandemic or a lockdown where you couldn't evict people as a landlord and all of that. So, Albie, this has been an incredible conversation. Anything that you would leave our audience with in terms of tips for relocating or last pieces of advice?
Um, know the market you're moving into. So we're getting a lot of people that are moving into Vegas where they're like, "Hey, I'm going to rent first and then think about buying." And I can tell you the buying part here is a little rough, but the rental market's even rougher. It is so hard to find a rental here. So I would say pre-plan and then look for a professional. If you know an agent in your area, ask them and say, "Hey, who do you know in this area?" Because that's better than just calling some random Joe off the internet. And that'd probably be the best advice I can give you guys.
Do you have a timeline of how long it takes for someone, especially in the rental market, to find something?
I don't know. I really don't know. So I give you a quick tidbit of why what we're seeing is, so since the beginning of the year, we've had 64,000 people move into this city. Right now on the MLS, we have less than 200 houses for rent.
Wow.
And most of those already have multiple applications on them. So, and the reason why we have the shortage is because 6,000 houses that should be available to rent today, people just up and sold them. I'm like, "Hey, I don't want another moratorium. I'm going to sell it today because I got big money coming in." So, and it makes sense. I would probably do the same on that part if my in-laws weren't living in my rental. So, yeah, so it made sense there. So you're looking at 6,000 less homes to rent. What I've been telling people to do if you just need temporary housing is to look on apartments.com. And that is basically where we've been pushing all of our clients because it's the only way they can get something.
That makes a lot of sense. So, Albie, if someone is inspired to connect with you as a result of this interview, what's the best way for them to reach out?
They could reach out by phone, probably be your best bet, or you can shoot me a text. So it is 702-526-4498. And that's directly to my cell phone. So you can give me a call or a text. You can email me, but it'll probably get, sit out through the filter. If you call, that's probably I don't know. I'll probably see who it is first because the spam filters are really strong right now because in our market, we're probably getting 20 to 30 spam phone calls a day.
Yikes.
It is pretty bad.
Yeah. It's crazy how anymore you have to like almost, I mean, it's always good to schedule a phone call, but I feel like nowadays you have to schedule a phone call with people so that they know you're not spam more so than just
Absolutely.
out
And
of
here's a quick fun
respect.
story on that is so my wife was actually looking for a new job at her same hospital. And the recruiter called her and she had a spam filter on. So it spammed filtered it. And then she listened to the voicemail. So let me call her back. She called her back. Her spam filter filtered out my wife's number. And then the only way they communicated was text. It was pretty
Oh
funny.
my goodness.
I didn't even know it filtered out regular phone calls.
Yes, it absolutely can. I've unfortunately experienced that. So, well, Albie, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Your information will be in the description or comment section of the video where this is posted. For those watching, thank you so much for your time. And I hope if you have any real estate needs in the Las Vegas area that you will consider Albie Vas because he's awesome.
Yay. Absolutely. Bye.